The galaxy feared the ghost ship. Humans Returned Home Part 1. The legend begins 300 years ago. The stars witnessed a crime. The Volrathi Dominion, rulers of 1,000 worlds, decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. They fired a weapon into Earth's sun. The star exploded. 8 planets burned. Billions died in seconds. The galaxy celebrated. The troublesome species was gone, or so they believed. In the deep darkness between stars, where no sensors could reach, a ship drifted. It was massive, nearly 3 kilometers long, built from the broken pieces of 100 human vessels. Its hull was black, painted with materials that swallowed all light. It had no name written on its side, but those who had seen it and lived to tell the story called it the Ducati. The ghost. Captain Taiho stood on the bridge and watched the stars through the main window. He was old now, though he did not look it. The stasis pods kept the aging slow. He had been 32 when Earth died. He was still 32 in body, but his eyes held 3 centuries of pain. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in silence. There were only 12 of them here, but elsewhere on the ship, 12,000 humans lived their quiet lives. They farmed in the hydroponic bays. They taught children in small classrooms. They loved, they laughed, they mourned. They were the last of their kind, and they refused to disappear. The door opened with a soft hiss. Yuna walked in, her boots heavy on the metal floor. She was the chief engineer, one of the oldest survivors. She had been aboard one of the escape ships when Earth burned. She still remembered the flash of light, the screams on the radio, the terrible silence that followed. "The drive is ready," she said. Her voice was calm, but Taiho knew her well enough to hear the tension beneath it. "We can make the jump whenever you give the order." Taiho nodded slowly. "How many ships this time?" 12 Arathi patrol vessels. Heavy class. They were guarding a supply line to the outer colonies. "Were," Taiho repeated with a thin smile. Yuna did not smile back. "Taiho, we have hit 47 convoys in the last year. The Velrathi are not stupid. They will start looking for us with real effort soon. Let them look." Taiho turned away from the window. "That is exactly what we want." From his station nearby, Jiwan looked up. He was young, born on the ship, one of the new generation who had never seen Earth except in recordings. He had sharp eyes and quick hands, perfect for tactical operations. But he also had questions that the older survivors did not like to answer. "Captain," he said carefully, "may I speak?" "You always may, Jiwan." "The crew is talking. Everyone knows we have been more aggressive lately. More attacks, more risks. Some people are asking why. We have survived for 300 years by hiding. Why change now?" Taiho walked to the center of the bridge. He looked at each crew member in turn. These were his people, his family, the only family humanity had left. "Because hiding is no longer enough," he said. "For 3 centuries, we have drifted in the dark. We have survived, but we have not lived. Our children grow up in metal corridors, never seeing a sky, never feeling wind on their faces. They learn about Earth from old videos, and each generation, it feels less real to them." He paused, his jaw tight with old anger. "The Volrathi believe they won. They sleep peacefully in their palaces, certain that the human threat is gone forever. They do not fear us anymore. They do not even think about us. We are a footnote in their history books. A problem they solved." Taiho's voice grew hard. "I am going to remind them. I am going to make them afraid again. And when they are afraid enough, when they are looking everywhere for the ghost ship, when their fleets are scattered and their leaders are panicking, we will slip through their fingers and find our new home." Yuna stepped forward. "Tell them about the signal, Taiho." The captain nodded. He touched a panel on the central console, and a hologram appeared. It showed a map of the galaxy, with hundreds of red dots marking Volrathi systems. "Tomorrow," Taiho said, "we will broadcast a message. It will reach every corner of known space. Every species, every world, every station. The message will be simple." He spoke the words slowly, letting them fill the silent bridge. "We remember. We return. We reclaim." Jiwan felt a chill run down his spine. "They will hunt us with everything they have." "Yes," Taiho agreed. "They will send their largest fleets. They will offer rewards for our location. They will tear apart the galaxy looking for us. And that is what you want." Taiho smiled, and for a moment, Jiwan saw something ancient and dangerous in his captain's eyes. Something that had watched the homeworld die and refused to break. "The Volrathi made us into ghosts," Taiho said. "Now they will learn what ghosts can do. Let the hunt begin." The Dakebi powered up its strange engines, and the stars outside the window began to blur. In seconds, the ship vanished from normal space, leaving behind nothing but empty darkness. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Volrathi slept peacefully. They would not sleep peacefully for much longer. The galaxy feared the ghost ship. Humans returned home Part 2. The hunt awakens. The message reached Volrathi High Command at exactly midnight, local time. It came through every channel at once. Military frequencies, civilian broadcasts, emergency systems. There was no way to block it, no way to stop it. The words burned across screens throughout the capital. "We remember. We return. We reclaim." High Admiral Morvith stood in the center of the war room, his forearms clasped behind his back. He was old, even by Volrathi standards. His scales had faded from bright purple to a dull gray. But his mind was still sharp, and his memory was long. "Play it again," he ordered. The message repeated. This time, an image accompanied it. A blue and green sphere, beautiful and bright, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Earth, a world that had not existed for 3 centuries. The younger officers in the room shifted nervously. Most of them had never seen Earth. To them, humanity was just a story, a lesson about what happened to species that challenged the Dominion. But Morvith remembered. He had been a young commander during the human wars. He had watched them fight with broken ships and outdated weapons. He had seen them sacrifice entire fleets just to buy time for their civilians to escape. He had looked into their eyes and seen something that still haunted him. They never gave up. No matter how badly they were losing, they never stopped fighting. "High Admiral," one of his officers said, "this must be a hoax. Some rebel group using old human symbols to cause fear. The humans are extinct. We destroyed them." Morvith turned his cold gaze on the officer. Did we? Did we confirm every death? Did we track every ship that fled before the supernova?" The officer hesitated. There were some unconfirmed reports of escape vessels, but they could not have survived this long. 300 years, alone in space? It is impossible. Impossible. Morvith tasted the word like it was something bitter. "I once thought it was impossible for a species to fight for 20 years against our full military might. I thought it was impossible for them to win battles when outnumbered 50-1. I was wrong then. I will not be wrong again." He turned to the main display and began pulling up reports. Ship disappearances. Unexplained attacks on supply lines. Patrol fleets that had gone silent and were never found. The pattern was there if you knew how to look. "Mobilize the fleet," Morvith ordered. "All of it. Every battleship, every carrier, every fighter we can spare. We are going to find this ghost ship, and we are going to finish what we started 3 centuries ago." Far across the galaxy, aboard the Dakebi, Taiho watched the Volrathi response through intercepted communications. He stood in the engineering bay with Yuna and Jiwan. surrounded by the soft hum of machines that had kept them alive for 300 years. "They are sending everything," Jiwan reported, scrolling through data on his tablet. 400 warships at least. Maybe more. The largest fleet mobilization since the human wars. Yuna looked up from her work on the phase drive. Her hands were covered in grease, and her eyes were tired. "That is a lot of firepower, Taiho. Even for us. We are not going to fight them," Taiho said calmly. "Not yet. Let them chase us. Let them search every corner of space. Every day they spend hunting us is a day they are not oppressing the species under their rule. Every ship they send after us is a ship not guarding their borders." Jiwan frowned. "So we just keep running? That is the plan?" "No." Taiho walked to a large screen on the wall and activated it. A star map appeared, covered in lines and symbols that Jiwan did not recognize. Running was the old plan. For 300 years, we have been running and hiding and surviving. But we have also been searching. He pointed to a cluster of stars on the edge of the map. Before Earth was destroyed, a fleet of colony ships escaped. 20 vessels carrying 50,000 humans. They went through an experimental wormhole to an unknown destination. We never knew where they went. The Valrathi never found them. Yuna's eyes widened. "You think they survived?" "I know they did." Taiho's voice was quiet but certain. "For 3 centuries, we have been gathering pieces of the wormhole coordinates. Old research stations. Abandoned labs. Data fragments floating in the wreckage of Earth's solar system. Last month, we finally completed the map." Jiwan stared at the screen. "There are more humans? Out there somewhere? Possibly millions of them by now," Taiho said. "If they survived, if they found a habitable world, if they built a civilization while we were hiding in the dark." The young tactical officer felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Hope. He had never felt hope before. "On the Dakebe, you learned early that hope was a luxury they could not afford. Why did you not tell us before?" he asked. Taiho's expression softened. "Because I was not certain. I am still not certain. But we cannot hide forever. Our population is stable, but we are not growing. 12,000 people is not enough to rebuild a species. We need to find the others, or humanity dies with us." He looked at both of them, his eyes holding the weight of centuries. The broadcast was not just about making the Valrathi afraid. It was about giving our people something to believe in. A destination. A purpose. For the first time in 300 years, we are not just surviving. We are going home. Yuna wiped her hands on her uniform and nodded slowly. "Then, we better make sure we get there." The Dakebe continued its journey through the darkness between stars. Behind it, the might of the Valrathi Dominion gathered for the hunt. And ahead, somewhere in the unknown reaches of the galaxy, the descendants of Earth waited without knowing that their lost brothers and sisters were finally coming to find them. The ghost ship had announced itself. Now the real game would begin. The galaxy feared the ghost ship. Humans returned home Part 3. Ghost Strike, the Valrathi agricultural world of Thesan Prime was quiet at dawn. Massive farms stretched across the plains, worked by machines and supervised by board officials. It was not an important world. It was not a military target. It grew food for the Dominion, nothing more. Then the sky changed. A shadow fell over the fields. The workers looked up and saw something impossible. A ship, vast and black, hovering silently where no ship should be. It had no engine lights. It made no sound. It simply existed, blocking out the sun like a dark moon. For 3 long minutes, nothing happened. The Valrathi on the ground stood frozen, unsure whether to run or report or pray. Their communication devices had stopped working. Their vehicles had shut down. The entire world held its breath. Then the ship began to broadcast. Images appeared in the sky, projected onto the clouds themselves. Mountains covered in green trees. Oceans that sparkled blue under a yellow sun. Cities of glass and steel where billions of creatures lived and worked and dreamed. A world called Earth. No words accompanied the images. They did not need any. Every species in the galaxy knew what Earth was. Every species knew what the Velrathi had done to it. When the images ended, the black ship vanished. It did not fly away. It did not jump to light speed. It simply stopped existing, leaving behind only empty sky and a world full of terrified witnesses. Across Velrathi space, similar incidents occurred. The ghost ship appeared over mining colonies, military academies, and trade stations. Sometimes it broadcast the images of Earth. Sometimes it played music, strange and beautiful sounds that the aliens had never heard before. Ancient human songs from a dead world, echoing through the corridors of enemy stations. It never fired a weapon. It never landed troops. It simply appeared, reminded everyone that humanity had existed, and disappeared again. The effect was devastating. In the capital, High Admiral Morvith received report after report. His fleet was scattered across the galaxy, chasing signals and rumors. Every time they arrived at a location, the ghost ship was already gone. It moved in ways that defied known physics. It appeared in places that should have been impossible to reach, and it was recruiting. On the mining world of Keth, the Dokebi had appeared above a camp where enslaved workers from a dozen species toiled under Velrathi guards. The ship had disabled the security systems and sent down shuttles. By the time reinforcements arrived, 3,000 workers had vanished. Along with equipment and supplies. Similar rescues happened across the Outer Rim. Species that had been crushed under Velrathi rule for centuries suddenly had hope. Whispers spread through the underground networks. The humans were alive. The humans were fighting back. And the humans were willing to help. Aboard the Dokebi, Yunji sat in the ship's archive room, surrounded by screens and old data crystals. She was the ship's historian, keeper of human memory. It was her job to preserve everything they had been, so that the children born in space would never forget. But today, she was not looking backward. She was looking at the future. "I found it," she said, her voice shaking slightly. Taiho, Yuna, and Jiwan crowded into the small room, waiting. "The complete coordinates?" Taiho asked. Yunji nodded. The colony fleet used an experimental wormhole drive. Before they jumped, they sent a coded message back to Earth. The message was fragmented, spread across dozens of relay stations. "We have been collecting the pieces for 300 years." She took a deep breath. "I just finished putting them together." She activated a display. A star map appeared, showing a region of space far beyond Velrathi territory. A cluster of 3 stars, orbited by 7 planets. "They called it New Dawn," Yunji said. 3 of the planets are habitable. If the colony fleet survived the jump, if they found what they were looking for, they could have built an entire civilization by now. Jiwan leaned forward, studying the map. "How far is it?" "Using normal drives, it would take centuries. But we do not have normal drives." Yunji looked at Yuna. "The phase drive can get us there in weeks." Yuna's face was complicated. The drive was never designed for a jump that long. "We have used it for short distances, quick attacks, escapes. A journey like this could tear the ship apart." "Could," Taiho said. "But not certainly." "Not certainly," Yuna admitted. Taiho stood in silence for a long moment. Around him, his closest advisors waited. This was the decision they had been building toward for 3 centuries. Risk everything on a chance, or continue hiding in the shadows until their people slowly died out. "We make the jump," Taiho said finally. "But not yet. First, We need to deal with HomeHFY and his fleet. They are getting too close. If they follow us through the wormhole, they could destroy everything we are trying to reach. Ji-won straightened. What is the plan? Tai-ho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We let them catch us. The others stared at him. Yuna was the first to speak. That is insane. 400 warships against one. Against one ship, yes. But we are not going to fight them with the ship. Tai-ho turned to face his officers, and in his eyes burned the cold fire of a man who had been planning this moment for longer than most species had existed. We are going to fight them with an idea. The Volrathi think they destroyed humanity. We are going to show them that they only made us stronger. And then, while they are trying to understand what happened, we are going to disappear forever. Outside the archive room, the Dokkaebi continued its journey through the dark. It carried 12,000 humans, the last survivors of a murdered world. But they would not be the last for much longer. The final phase of the plan was about to begin. The galaxy feared the ghost ship. Humans returned home Part 4. The Battle of the Wound. They called it the Scar. It was a vast emptiness in space where Earth's solar system had once existed. No planets, no sun, nothing but radiation and debris, slowly spreading outward like the blood from an old wound. No ship traveled through the Scar. There was nothing there to see, nothing to find. Only death and memory. This was where Captain Tai-ho chose to make his stand. The Dokkaebi emerged from phase space at the very center of the Scar, surrounded by the dust of humanity's homeworld. For a moment, the ship drifted in silence. Its crew looked out at the emptiness and remembered what had been lost. Then the Volrathi arrived. 400 warships dropped out of light speed in a sphere around the ghost ship. High Admiral HomeHFY stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The hunt was over. The ghost had finally made a mistake. Scan the target, he ordered. His officers obeyed. The data came back strange. The human ship was not moving. Its weapons were powered down. Its shields were at minimum. It was just sitting there, waiting. High Admiral, one of his officers said nervously, "This feels like a trap." "Of course it is a trap," HomeHFY replied. "But they are one ship against 400. What can they possibly do?" He opened a communication channel to the Dokkaebi. On the screen, Captain Tai-ho appeared. He looked calm, almost peaceful. Behind him, his bridge crew sat at their stations, watching the Volrathi fleet with steady eyes. "Human," HomeHFY said, "you have led us on a long chase. But it ends here, where it began. How fitting that the last of your kind will die in the grave of your homeworld." Tai-ho smiled slightly. "Is that what you think this is? Our grave? You have no escape. Surrender your ship and your people, and I will make their deaths quick. Continue to resist, and I will make them suffer for years before they die. You still do not understand." Tai-ho shook his head slowly. "You have been chasing us for months. You have gathered your entire fleet in one place. You have left your borders unguarded, your colonies unprotected, your subject species unwatched. All to catch one ship." HomeHFY felt a flicker of unease. "What is your point?" "My point is that we were never trying to escape. We were trying to keep you busy." The communication cut off. HomeHFY opened his mouth to order the attack, but before he could speak, the human ship came alive. Weapons that the Volrathi had never seen before activated across the Dokkaebi's hull. Strange energy beams that passed through shields as if they did not exist. Swarms of tiny drones that moved too fast to track. Electronic signals that scrambled navigation and targeting systems. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, 112 Volrathi ships had been destroyed or disabled. The rest of the fleet was scattered, their formations broken, their commanders panicking. The HFY had taken damage, but it was still fighting, still moving, still broadcasting that terrible signal. We remember. We return. We reclaim. Morvith watched his fleet falling apart and felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. Real, pure fear. All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel, he ordered. Everything we have, now. The remaining Volrathi ships reformed and unleashed their combined firepower on the HFY. For several minutes, the space around the ghost ship became a storm of energy and destruction. Nothing could survive that assault. Nothing. When the fire stopped, the HFY was dark. Its engines were dead. Its weapons were silent. It drifted slowly through the debris field, a broken hulk among the dust of Earth. "We have destroyed it," one of his officers reported, though he sounded uncertain. "Life signs are fading. No power signatures detected." Morvith did not feel relief. He felt dread. "Send boarding parties. I want to see the bodies with my own eyes." Shuttles launched from the surviving Volrathi ships and approached the silent ghost ship. They docked at the main airlock and cut their way through the hull. Soldiers poured into the dark corridors, weapons ready. They found nothing. The hallways were empty. The stasis pods were empty. The living quarters, the farms, the schools, all empty. 12,000 humans had simply vanished. The soldiers reached the bridge and found a single terminal still active. A recording played automatically when they entered. Captain Taiho's face appeared on the screen. "You destroyed our world because you feared what we might become," he said, his voice calm and clear. "You were right to be afraid, but you made a mistake. You should have made sure we were all dead." The soldiers looked at each other in confusion. Where had the humans gone? Taiho continued speaking. "This ship was never the weapon. It was never the plan. It was the distraction. While you were chasing us, while your fleet was gathered here, we were preparing. Everything you have done has played into our hands." A countdown appeared on the screen. "We are already gone," Taiho said. "We are going home. And you will never find us." The Volrathi soldiers ran for their shuttles. Some made it. Most did not. The HFY exploded in a flash of light that was visible across 3 star systems. The blast took 17 more Volrathi ships with it in the aftermath. High Admiral Morvith stood on his damaged bridge and stared at the expanding cloud of debris. The ghost ship was gone. The humans were gone. And somewhere in the galaxy, they were still out there. He had failed. The galaxy feared the ghost ship. Humans Returned Home Part 5. Humans returned home. The light was warm and golden. Taiho stepped off the shuttle and felt something he had not felt in 300 years. Wind on his face. Real wind, carrying the scent of growing things, of life, of a world that was alive around him. The other survivors of the HFY emerged slowly. 12,000 humans, blinking in the sunlight of an alien world, struggling to understand what they were seeing. Some of them had never stood under an open sky. Some of them had never seen grass or trees except in old recordings. Many of them were crying. The plan had worked perfectly. While the Volrathi fleet was focused on the HFY at the Scar, small transport ships had been secretly ferrying the crew to a hidden location nearby. The ghost ship itself had been set to fight on automatic, buying time for the evacuation. By the time the Volrathi realized what was happening, everyone was already gone. The transports had gathered at the rendezvous point and made the long jump through the wormhole together. The phase drives had held, barely. Several ships had needed repairs on the other side, but they had made it, and they had found exactly what they hoped to find. The colony fleet had not just survived. It had thrived. New Dawn was a system of 3 habitable worlds. In 300 years, The original 50,000 colonists had grown to nearly 2 million. They had built cities and farms and factories. They had developed technology that matched or exceeded anything the Volrathi possessed. And they had been waiting, hoping, praying that someday the rest of their people would find them. Taiho walked across the landing field toward the welcoming committee. They were human, clearly, but different in subtle ways. Taller on average, their skin tanned by a different sun, their accents shaped by centuries of separation. But when they smiled, when they reached out their hands, they were the same species. The same family. An elderly woman stepped forward from the group. Her hair was white, and her face was lined with age, but she stood straight and strong. She wore a simple blue uniform with a small symbol on her shoulder. A blue and green sphere. Earth. "I am Harry," she said. Her voice trembled slightly. "My grandmother was on one of the colony ships. She told my mother about Earth, and my mother told me. We have passed down the stories for generations, hoping this day would come." Taiho took her hand. "I am Taiho. I remember Earth. I watched it die." Harry's eyes filled with tears. "Then you carry the memory for all of us." She pulled him into an embrace. And for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Behind them, the survivors of the Dokebi were meeting the people of New Dawn. Yuna stood with a group of engineers, marveling at the technology they had developed. Jiwon was surrounded by young soldiers who wanted to hear about the battles against the Volrathi. Yoonji had found the planetary archive and was already planning how to merge their historical records. And everywhere, there was joy. Pure, simple joy. Humanity had been scattered to the stars, broken and nearly destroyed, but they had found each other again. Harry led Taiho to a vehicle that carried them to a nearby hill. From the top, they could see the capital city of New Dawn spreading across the valley below. Towers of glass and steel, green parks and blue lakes, roads filled with people going about their lives. Normal lives. Safe lives. "We built warships," Harry said quietly, looking out at the city. "Hundreds of them. We trained soldiers. We developed weapons. For 3 centuries, we have been preparing to go back and find our brothers and sisters, or to fight the Volrathi if they ever found us." Taiho looked at her. "You never forgot. How could we? Earth is gone, but humanity is not just a planet. It is an idea. It is a promise. Wherever we go, whatever happens, we carry our home with us." Behind them, more ships were arriving. Not just the transports from the Dokebi, but other vessels. Ships from a dozen alien species, carrying the workers and refugees that humanity had rescued during their campaign against the Volrathi. They had been given coordinates to the wormhole. They had made the journey on faith. Taiho watched them land and felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Peace. "What happens now?" Harry asked. Taiho thought about it. The Volrathi Dominion was still out there, still powerful, still dangerous. But they were also wounded and confused. Their fleet was scattered. Their subject species were rising up. The legend of the ghost ship had spread to every corner of the galaxy. "Now we build," Taiho said finally. "We welcome everyone who wants to live in freedom. We prepare for the day when the Volrathi come looking for revenge. And we remember. We remember Earth. We remember what we lost, and we remember what we survived." He looked at Harry and smiled. It was a real smile, the first one in centuries. "We are home," he said. "Not because we found a new planet, but because we found each other." That is what the Volrathi never understood. You cannot kill humanity by destroying a world. You cannot erase us by scattering us to the stars. As long as one of us survives, humanity survives. And now there are millions of us. In the valley below, children were running across a green field, laughing. They were the future. The promise of everything that Earth had been and everything New Dawn would become. Across the galaxy, The final message of the Dock reached every world, every station, every ship. Humanity lives. Earth was our cradle, but we have outgrown it. We are coming home, and home is wherever we choose to make it. The Vilrathi Dominion heard the message and trembled. The ghost ship was gone, but its legend would live forever. And somewhere, under 3 suns, humanity had finally come home. The end.